this. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Human Potential Channel. This is the next in a series. I've got a new friend of mine, Ken McCord, who's got a very, very interesting background. We're working on funding a project for him and his partners at this time. And as I got a chance to chat with him, I thought, I like the way he thinks. I'm sure that there's some things that he can share with our audience that will help them have clarity on how to find opportunity in a world that some think is confusing and frustrating. So, Ken, maybe you could give a little background on yourself. Hey, folks, remember, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And we're always looking for quality guests. We're always looking for people that can share with us their way of thinking so that we can have a positive influence on others and quality life. So Ken, introduce yourself and kind of give them a thumbnail sketch of your background. Let's talk about how you think and how you managed to keep so much more hair than me. I've always puzzled over this.
I wish I knew the secret to that. I'd be a billionaire. Yeah, I don't know. I tell you, that's often all I think that's all I've got sometimes. Because if I lose this, I'm screwed. Thank you for having me today, David. It's nice to see you again. I don't know. I met you a couple months ago?
Yeah,
I think, and it's been an interesting journey for sure. So thanks for your warm welcome to us anyway, and all the introductions you've made for us. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
So first and foremost, I'm a Canadian, and you can tell probably because I'm wearing a Canadian business suit right now. It is December and it's cold in Toronto, so this is standard business attire: the flannel shirt and the t-shirt underneath.
Do you have fur pants on?
Yeah, the fur pants,
sealskin.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I am a finance guy. So, Canada's Wall Street is called Bay Street. I've been a Bay Street guy my whole career. I started out as a classic kid, not really being able to answer the question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
And I had friends who could always answer that question. A guy who I knew he was going to be a lawyer. One guy knew he was going to be a fireman, and those kinds of things. I never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. But my father was in the finance business. He was an investment advisor, and I adored my dad. And it looked like a cool career. He made good money, and he was home for dinner every night, and he took me to hockey games, and he was home on weekends, and he was just a good dad and did well. And I thought, all right, I'll give that a shot. I can do finance.
Yeah.
And so that was, I don't know, 30 years ago now, and maybe longer. I guess it would be longer. And I'm still here, and I still can't answer the question, what I want to be when I grow up, but so far so good. It's been a good run, but I didn't take, there's a couple paths in this industry one can take to be an individual financial advisor like my dad, where you're literally giving advice to the man on the street. Interesting. But I had this eye on being a little bit more of a corporate giant. Not that I'm even close to that, but I like the idea of wearing the three-piece suit and being in the ivory tower and around a big boardroom table and making big decisions for big businesses. So I went more the corporate route, and I ended up in investment management in general, initially the mutual fund industry, and worked for some of the big companies that everyone would know, like Invesco.
Yeah.
And then eventually you realize you got to get sort of a leg up on everybody else. So I got a professional designation. I went back and got a master's in business. That opens up lots of opportunity. And then I became a professional. So I became a chartered financial analyst, or I got a CFA designation. That opens up even more opportunity. So, when people say how lucky you are, someone said the more prepared I am, the luckier I get.
Of course.
So that was one of my first learnings, I think, was to be prepared. And if you're prepared, you'll get lucky. But eventually I decided that the big corporate life really wasn't what I was after. It just got too political and too much backstabbing and too much bureaucracy. And I thought it's time to strike out on my own and be an entrepreneur. So I'm still in this business of finance in a broad sense. but I have my own company called Red Jacket Capital. I started it with a dear friend of mine named Dave, who was my high school buddy. I met him in ninth grade, best of friends. And then about 14 or 15 years ago, we said, you know what, it's time. Let's drop the shackles of corporate Canada and start our own business. And so here we are. It's been a good journey, and we've had some great successes and some great failures, but it's been a hell of a journey.
So when you talk about successes and failures, I guess in the financial business, you measure that in terms of profit. You did a deal and it was profitable. I think that maybe for our audience, dealing with success, that's one thing that we could talk about. But for most people, I think it's how do you deal with things that turn out different than you wanted it to? How do you continue to keep the right attitude and surround yourself with the right people to keep moving forward, to learn from what happened and go on to the next success if we measure it financially?
Yeah, the biggest lesson I've learned is not to take it personally and don't let it get to you. It's not because of you that the deal failed. It may have been a little bit, but deals fail all the time. Businesses fail all the time. The greatest businessmen in the world have one or two failures in their journey to great success. It happens to everybody. And it's just like that old metaphor that the greatest ball player in the world, whoever that is, Ted Williams, I don't know, best hitter ever.
I've heard that name.
What was his
Babe
average?
Ruth.
400. So he struck out, or he was put out 6 out of 10 times. He struck out or got out. They got to hit 4 out of 10 times. So, and he's the greatest ever. So you're going to get a lot of appearances at the plate. You're going to swing at a lot of pitches, and you're going to get a lot of strikes. But once in a while, you're going to get a big hit, and hopefully a couple home runs in your life. And that's kind of how I approach my failures. It's just another milestone along the journey. You're definitely going to learn something along the way. It's like, oh, I should never deal with that guy again, or I should never structure it that way again. And it's just another set of experiences to rely on for your next uh, appearance at the plate.
So what you're describing is a practice. It's you can't really predict the future. You come up with probabilities, and just when you think you've got all the probabilities, you get a COVID or you get a war with
Right.
Russia attacking somebody. I mean, you couldn't really have known that would happen, and it
Yeah.
has an impact on whatever you're doing, probably. Or the Fed starts raising interest rates here in this country, which of course spills over to the rest of the world at a rate that it's never raised at that speed ever before in history, and all the
Right.
complexity of the debt and everything we have in the world. So it's a question of practice. So you go into something imagining you think what's going to happen, but almost never does it happen that way. So I heard you talk about people. What you learn is, oh, I'm not going to be around that person next time I try to do a deal because I just discovered some things about him I don't like, or whatever the case would be. So if you narrowed it down to those things that you think contributed to the successes you have had, do you see a pattern in there?
People number one. I'm
People.
not even sure if it's a pattern. It's more of a point. People. That is the number one thing I think that creates success or failure, or just even brings you joy or not. I mean, to give you a little story, it was one of the things that got me out of the corporate world. Um, Along my journey when didn't know what to do when I grew up, I'm like
Yeah.
always trying to figure out what I should be doing with my life. I realized that I had been in some businesses where I had a great title, great pay, great brand, and just really didn't want to get up and go to work every day. And I've had opportunities where I've had no name brand, no title, not a lot of money being made, but I loved getting up and going to work every day. The difference was the people. I just realized one day I woke up and went, that's what it is. I want to go work with those people. So at some point in my career, I thought, I got to create something where I want to create a business where it's filled with people that make me want to jump out of bed and run to work every day, whether they're partners or employees or service providers or customers. I just felt I needed to surround myself with those kind of people. I thought to myself, where do I have that in my life now? And I have been blessed with a great friendship network, some from grade school, some from high school, some from even university still. And I thought, I got to emulate that part of my life in my professional career. And that's really what caused me to start Red Jacket 14 years ago with literally one of my best friends. It's like, that's getting up every morning and going to work with that guy. I'm into that. That's going to be good. And so that is the most consistent theme I find in my life, in my career, of success versus failure, is the people involved. You've got to surround yourself with good people, not just partners and staff, but customers and suppliers and everyone else in your ecosystem. You got to make sure that they have good character. They're not selfish. They work hard, and they're going to be there for you. End of the
So
day.
how do you attract that kind of person? I mean, what is the magnet?
Yeah, I think it's a vibe. I've forced it too many times in my career by getting caught up in the opportunity and dismissing the character. It's like, oh, I'm going to make how much money? Well, he's a bit of an idiot, but okay, I'm going to go for it, right? And it always invariably blows up. And so you just got to meet people. This phone calls were okay, but you can't really tell much. Then we got into post-COVID Zoom stuff, right? This is way better,
Yeah.
but nothing's better than sitting in front of someone and not even talking business. Have a coffee, have a bite, talk about the person's history. Where did you grow up? Tell me about your family. Did you have a dog? Tell me, all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff I think is really important. Now, you're not going to do that with everybody, but if you're going to do a big deal or you're entering into a big contract, I think you got to start going beyond the business facade that people wear around every day
Yeah.
and try to scratch away at that and find out the true essence of the person. And once you do, you'll know, I don't want to deal with this guy, or yeah, this is a real guy. He's going to be there for me, and I trust him, and it's worth jumping in on this one. So I don't think there's any magic solution for finding out who the right people are, but other than just spending time with them and chatting like we are.
So what I hear underneath here is that if you want to attract quality people, you got to be one,
Yeah.
right? So
Amen.
you have to
Yeah,
look at yourself and
absolutely.
say, what's deficient in me? Where am I behaving in a way that I look back and I think, man, that wasn't a good way to be. Or why do I attract all of whatever's happening? Haven't you ever noticed that on a day when you're just not in a good space, you're angry about whatever, everyone in the freeways in your way, everyone at the
Yeah,
checkout line is doing stuff that irritates you. This
right.
Everybody's irritating you. How does that happen? It's what's going inside your head.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. You definitely have to check yourself and have a great lens on yourself first. Like whatever checks and balances you're going to put on other people, put it on yourself first. Am I
Yeah.
the kind of partner other people want to have in their business? Am I being overly greedy? Am I worried too much about this price? Um, am I being too much of a stickler on that term in the contract? I mean, people want to deal with other people who are reasonable
Yeah.
and aren't trying to like grab every piece of turf that's available. You're easy to deal with. You negotiate in a fair way that's honorable. You live up to your promises. If you can do that, as you said, David, you'll attract that. If you act that way, you'll attract it. Some people may take advantage of that, but you'll spot that really quickly and get rid of them. Um, so yeah, act as if you're one of the people you want to deal with.
So do you have a morning routine that you do that starts your day in a way that you want it to proceed?
I know exactly what you're talking about. The answer is no. It's in progress, let's say. I know what I want to do. I'm not quite there yet. I've never been a great morning person. I kind of need to rev up slowly. So my routine now is I don't get up late. I get up reasonably early, but I just need to sort of meditate and be quiet and still. I can't go right to work. I have a big, huge chair in my family room. And I sit in my chair and I have a big, big glass of water first. I don't have my coffee first, but I have a big, big glass of water. And I do a little meditation. I'm not into journaling yet, but my business partner Dave journals every morning, and I think I need to learn from that, start doing that. Um, and I just find some quiet time. I do a little bit of reading, and it takes me about an hour to go through that process. But I'm not as I think I know what you're getting at, which is maybe sort of having a vision for your day and thinking what you want to happen. I'm not there yet. I'm working on it. I'd like to
If
be
you
able to sit there and
if you
meditate
think
on.
in terms of professional athletes that have to be or professional entertainers, right? They when they get in front of the audience or they get to the game, they have to be in a prepared to perform no matter what outside them is going on. And what I've noticed with I'm a retired professional musician, and when I was listening to Pat Metheny talk, and he'll do a 4 hour gig. He'll show up 4 hours ahead of time to warm
Wow.
up for the gig.
Wow. That's
So,
amazing.
well, he's got his routine to play at the level where he plays, and he's a tremendous improvisationalist. And I heard him on the same interview. He said, I started out when he was a young kid. I started out, and he said, I was terrible. I was absolutely terrible. I had bad ideas. I performed poorly at sound, but I just kept going. And he named off all
Yeah.
these famous people like Miles Davis. These are guys that he was hanging out with, playing poorly with,
Wow.
but he practiced and has a routine, or a professional ball player that taps on their cleats, or someone that's shooting a
Yeah.
free throw bounces it, or
Yeah.
tennis, right? The same routine over and over again. And I wonder, you just described your morning warm up routine that allows you to get into the zone.
Yeah. I have a more specific routine though when I do have to perform in the moment. And um over my career, I've been on stage more than I can count. And I've been the talking head on business TV hundreds of times in our version of CNBC up here. And when you've got to do that, there's a lot of people prepare mentally only for that thing. And I tried often to prepare mentally. Okay, I'm on stage, I'm going to say this, I'm just thinking this stuff. I'm going to use those words, I'm going to say that there. But then I found when I got up there and you actually do it, it didn't come out the way it went through my mind. So I changed my routine at some point where I would literally say the words out loud in front of the mirror so I could hear what I was saying. And when you say it out loud and hear it, it's such a different experience when you then go up on the stage or in front of the TV camera and you actually do it because you said it before, you heard it, it sounded right, or you made the adjustment and your effectiveness goes up dramatically. So that's an area of preparation that I have learned over the years that helps me kind of deliver what I need to deliver.
It's interesting you'd say that. I've been listening to Louise Hay, who's very well known in the self improvement spirituality. She's probably 90 years old now, 85, 90. And she said, look in the mirror and talk to yourself.
Yeah,
Talk to yourself. And at first I thought that was kind of cornbally, but when I started doing it, I noticed I felt uncomfortable talking, looking at
yeah,
myself in the
yeah,
mirror. It felt like there was something wrong with me, but it had
yeah,
an impact on how I thought.
yeah. Biggest one for me was I had the sad, unfortunate reality of having a brother pass away, and
Hmm.
I had to do his eulogy. And I went through it in my mind 100 times, and I thought to myself, I should probably say it out loud in front of the mirror before the actual funeral. And when I opened my mouth and looked at myself in the mirror, I just lost it. It
Yeah.
was just an overpowering sense of emotion. And I probably had to do it in front of the mirror, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 times with varying degrees of emotional outburst, you know. But had I not done that, and by the time we got to the funeral and I actually delivered it, it was delivered in a way where people couldn't believe I did that emotional delivery without reflecting the emotion. And it was the only reason I could was because I had prepared that way, out loud in front of the mirror, got rid of all the stuff that had been pent up and let it out. And by the time I got up on stage, it's like, okay, I've been here before. I know the emotional parts. I've hit it. I've been there. This won't be easy, but it's going to be easier. And that really, I think that was the most profound example of preparation.
Well, think what a powerful technique that is. If you could cope with something as deeply personal and emotionally traumatizing as the loss of your brother with the method you described, I wonder if that same method could be applied toward business difficulties or failures where you feel like, how can I come back from this? I lost every penny I had and everybody's suing me or whatever that would look like. If you could go through that same process in the mirror, work through the emotion, not ignore it, not stuff it down, and then come up
Yeah,
with what we might call wisdom so that you've
yeah,
released the emotion, you still have the
yeah,
learning, and now you can deliver it in a way that other people can relate to without losing
yeah,
it to your emotional
yeah.
overload.
Well, in a business sense, the other metaphorical mirror that you can talk into is just writing out the email when you're in the moment, but do not hit the send button. I've done this, it's saved my skin so many times where I'm pissed off, I'm upset, I want vengeance or something. And I just go right, I bang it out. You son of a bitch, whatever. You
Yeah.
owe me,
Right.
whatever. And I just, when I finish it, I'm done. I leave it. I go eat my dinner. I go to bed. I come back the next morning. I read it and I go, oh my God, I can't. I'm so glad I didn't send that, or whatever it is, right? Or
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I still believe that, or whatever. But that's kind of a different sort of mirror, if you want, just to put all your words in writing that you can generally do more in a business circumstances, where it allows you to look at yourself and kind of reflect on what you just said and whether it really is appropriate or whether it's just your emotion. You were upset and you weren't sort of handling the situation as well as you'd like to.
If you
That
think
kind
of
of
any
writing down is as
decisions
good
that
as
you
talking in the
make,
mirror.
any decisions you make under the influence of high emotions, which is what your body is filled with hormones and all sorts of chemicals because of those emotions. So it
Yeah.
would be similar to have, boy, I got to make some important decisions. Let me drink a fifth of scotch and then I'm going to go execute on that. And your body is filled with all sorts of things that, like being drunk or being on drugs, would be similar
Yeah.
to, right? And you wouldn't
Well,
want to go
that's
out
the
and make
worst
decisions.
thing to do is, yeah, to have a few drinks and then send a note to your boss when you're upset. Yeah, that's a horrible idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. You may think
So,
you're having a little courage and I'll show him, but that never
so
works.
in fact, when I really am fascinated by people with the high skills like Navy SEALs. They can go into high levels of very stressful, life-threatening circumstances and appear to be calm. Now, I've never watched someone in that. I've just heard the explanation from people that have been around them, or they themselves talking about going into battle where people around them are getting hurt and they're just down into the operational zone. Now, that came from huge amounts of talking in the mirror, right? Lots of
Right,
practice, lots of
right.
practice.
Yeah, I think so. That's a lot of training too. Those guys go through a lot of training. So practice and training, like to learn from those who've been there before. Um, that's a great strategy for successful business as well.
And what I
Talk
hear
to
from
have,
all of them, their instructors push them beyond reasonable expectations where they
right?
didn't think they could make it anymore. And in some
Yeah,
cases, in the SEALs, they actually drowned while they're in their training, have to be brought out and revived. But they learned in that process how to go beyond what your body thinks you can do and force
yeah,
yourself to do it mentally.
yeah, yeah. And so I think the application of that in a business sense is so smart to get a mentor, someone who can train you. Find someone who is in your industry who will sort of take you under their wing in some way, shape, or form and guide you and be a mentor. It's someone you can call up in the dark hours and say, "Hey, have you ever had this happen? And how'd you deal with it? And what advice have you got for me?" That's really smart stuff too. Like you don't have to go through this stuff alone. There's so many guys out there that would do that just as a favor for smart, young, intelligent, hardworking business people who need a mentor. Guys would do that just because they're good people.
So, how would you recommend that a young person or an old person, for that matter, find a mentor? What process should they use to find that person?
Yeah, I was lucky as a kid. One of my best friend's fathers was a very successful CEO for a big company. And I was around him all the time. So it was just like I was his son's buddy and I could just ask him stuff all the time. And even just watching the guy be a success and reading about him in the paper was pretty cool. But I think most of it comes from the after work hours. It could be joining a club, joining a business club, go to the gym in the business community you're in, where there's lots of people in your community that are at the gym. Um, Up here, you're going to play pickup hockey, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but you got to have a life beyond work because it'll enhance your work life. And if you are able to meet people who can be your mentor to some degree, and they don't have to be some older guy, it could be just somebody who's more experienced in the same role that's your same age, but just had more experience, or um, they just got a different angle on your business. But someone you can go to for some wisdom, for some advice, for some training, as you say, someone who's been there before. You got to look for that. It's not going to come naturally, but I think there's lots of business groups out there as well that people can join that are fairly free and well known. And Facebook would have lots of business groups. Um, in this day and age of technology, there's got to be Zoom groups now where
Sure.
entrepreneurs find similar entrepreneurs to share ideas and problems and solutions.
I've met a lot
Uh,
of good people on LinkedIn for, if you go there
sure,
for
people
with
on LinkedIn
business in
as well.
mind.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there's lots of that out there, and I've had a couple guys come to me looking for informal mentorship, and I got a lot of joy out of it. It's great to share your successes and failures with other guys who are going through it too, and to be able to offer anything to them is quite rewarding. So
And by doing
I
that, you
encourage
gain
that.
insights into yourself, things that you kind of overlooked. And as you're speaking with them, trying to articulate what you believe you've learned, it causes you to sharpen, like journaling, sharpen your view of what really happened. Have you ever
Yeah,
gone through it and you're getting ready to tell someone in your head what happened? And as you're telling them and hearing it, you're thinking, well, that's not really quite what happened. It really, and you change, right? This is really more like what
yeah,
really happened.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's an important thing. I agree. And you can't have too many people in your corner, and and then just passing it on to the next generation, the next person to be a coach to them is just how the world gets by. And I think that success breeds success. And whether you need a mentor or you could be a mentor, you should do it both.
When you think about it, really the whole reason, the right reason that people should have children is to give to them what you learned by going through what you did. So hopefully they'll have a leg up when they go out into life. And in a perfect world, they do the same for their children. And so many
Right.
generations down the road, instead of all going to prison, maybe something would have
Right.
changed along the way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think we try to build those similar sort of families in a corporate world too. Like we feel, I mean, there's people I work with that I consider, almost family, and passing your knowledge and experience on to those family members is business family members is essential to create a better society and better business culture and help the economy grow and all that kind of stuff
You,
for sure.
it sounds like you probably have noticed this. When I was a professional musician, when I had the right mix of players in the group with me, I was a better musician. I played at a level, and we had nights
Sure.
where we all just kind of hit the zone. And on those
Yeah.
nights, our eyes were closed, but we were moving together like we could see each other. So there's a
Yeah.
connection that happens in a group. Human beings are social creatures. We're pack animals. And when you get together with the right pack, the energy between you or with a partner, right? A good partner, whatever that would look like. When you're together, you both are able to perform at a higher level than you can individually because of how you augment one another. And the
Right.
mentoring that we're talking about, the learning, the experiencing emotions and learning how to best deal with them are all spiritual experiences, aren't they? I know
Yeah.
maybe that word is kind of gone out of phase or something, but it's that there's a connection between human beings that goes beyond what we can just see.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if that word has lost a place in our culture, it should come back because
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
Spiritual. Yeah. I think that connection is very real. And you can feel it when you're in the right room with the right people doing the right things. Something magical happens. And I think a lot of people feel it. I have been blessed to feel that a couple times in my career. And you just know you're onto something good. The right people are all energized and you're seeing the success and people want to be around you and emulate you. And it's pretty magic when it happens.
Yeah, if you set aside the economics of a deal and really look at what's jazzing about it, it's not the money that comes out the other end. That's fine, and you can do great things with that. But it's that feeling that there was nothing and now there's something, and the something could be
Yeah.
so magnificent. I started a company out of the trunk of my Cadillac when I first found out that I could find people that wanted to borrow money, find someone that wanted to lend it, stand in between it, and get paid. I th- I'd been playing in nightclubs for peanuts my whole life, and when that started happening, I thought this seems how could this even be possible? How could it even be possible? I was just so amazed by it, and I was walking around the entire floor of a building that we had leased, and I thought this came out of the trunk of my 1983 Cadillac sedan DeVille. It's all everything,
Wow.
Uh, but it
That's
was
pretty
the
cool.
people, right? It was the people.
Yeah.
And at
Yeah.
that time, I had
Yeah.
like maybe 80 people that were working for me or with me or whatever you would say.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. The money just is a yardstick to determine whether or not, there's material success, but success can be measured in so many other ways. And a lot of it is just that psychic income that you get, the sense of accomplishment, and the sense that you've built something that's real, that you've employed 80 people and you've helped 80 people put food on the table and a roof over their head and buy their own Cadillac, that's extremely rewarding to
You know
know
what's
that your
amazing
idea
about that? I didn't
helped
even know
80
it.
families.
I didn't even know it, but I'm 71 now. And over the years, people that had worked for me or with me have come back to me and say, "Hey, I just thought I'd tell you, you changed my life."
Oh, I
And,
love
I,
that.
and I'm thinking, what? you know,
Yeah,
we just worked together. No, you changed my life. And so you never know when you have impact on others that's profound in their own, not in your perspective, but in their own perspective.
that's really cool. That's a really great achievement. Like that to me is, I mean, money's important and everything, but that's really a beautiful thing. Like you can kind of like go to your grave at some point and think to have a positive impact on the life of anybody, let alone I'm sure many more. That's what it's all about. So
I go on these
congratulations on
nature
that.
walks on the Katy Trail, and I'd been walking on the trail for about 18 months. And this guy would come by, and I always smile at everybody, smile and wave. And there's a bunch of people I don't know them, but we smile and wave at each other. We've gotten to that point, right? And this guy, every time I looked at him, he'd scowl at me. And I thought, does he not like me, or he doesn't know me? And one day I was stopping and tying my shoe, and he stopped and he said, "Why are you smiling all the time?" And I said, "I'm just happy." And he smiled at me. He smiled at me and he said, "Thank you for doing that." And every other time since then I see him, he looks at me and he smiles at me every single time.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, why are
That's a
you
good
always
change.
smiling? Why are you always smiling?
You thought you had something concerning going on there then,
It's
which is
you
an
never know what's going on.
honest happiness.
You don't know what's going on inside of someone else's head, right? What's the normal thing? We always think the world revolves around us, and the behavior of everyone around us is directed to us. It's not. Everyone has their own life. So if you
That was
were
one of the
going
biggest things I learned over. It comes, I think, to most people later in life, but to learn that you have that epiphany someday where you realize, you know what, it's not about me. Like
no,
people are out there acting that way because of me. They don't give a shit about me.
no,
Nor does that guy. They got their own problems, they got their own issues, and they're just living their lives best they can because it's hard these days. It's hard to be a human being, and they're doing the best they can. And I happen to be in their way today or something, but it's not me.
no,
Yeah,
no. It never
they
was.
got
So
no.
so let me ask you this. What I always like to do at the end of every show is I'd like to ask the guest if there were one thing that they could recommend to our listeners that is very easy to do, just as easy not to do, that could have a profound effect on the rest of their life if they would just start doing it. What thing would
Wow.
you pick? And it doesn't have to be complex, right? In fact, often it isn't.
Okay, tell me a little bit about the audience that's listening to this. Are they business people? Are they
It's usually people that are looking for solutions, because human potential is the title of the channel. They're looking for solutions. They're interested in hearing what other people think, and they're wanting to learn. So they're open minded. They're wanting to learn. Sometimes you might say something, they think, you know what, I do that. Or I used to do that and I don't, I'm going to. Or I've never tried that. Let me try that.
um well, maybe I'd say this. The answer is often found within. And sometimes it's trapped in there and it's hard to get it out. And I have found in my life that sitting here at my desk presented a problem or an opportunity or any other kind of challenge, I rarely figure it out here. And a lot of people might decide, I'll go elsewhere to my mentor or to my colleague somewhere, or I'll read about it on the internet. And I have found that it's often within. I just can't get it out when I'm sitting at my desk. So for me, when I'm presented a challenge or a problem, I have to leave in any number of ways, physically or mentally or emotionally. And the light bulb goes off more often than not when I'm away from my desk. It'll happen like I've become a walker. I'm too old to run anymore because my knees hurt.
Yeah.
But I'll get out. I've got a big, beautiful cemetery beside my home, and I just do a couple laps in there. It's beautiful. And when you're outside and you're not at your computer and you don't have your phone plugged in and there's no distractions and you're just walking, the number of times it hits me, it's just remarkable. Or in the shower all the time. I got it. I know what to do now. Or in the gym, that's another one I got to recommend to people is for a couple reasons. Pursuing business success, I kind of forgot about how important mind, body, and soul is all connected. And I let my body go in a way that I didn't like. And
Yeah.
I went back to the gym and I just got really intense and I started lifting heavy weights again and building muscle. And God, has that ever helped me in my career? Just being physically strong. and not just physically strong, because it helps every other part of my life. But that's the other place the light bulb goes off. When I'm in the gym and I'm just throwing weights around, or I'm on the rowing machine, or I'm doing whatever, that's another place that things just happen. And so I think I'd leave people with that. When you're struggling with what to do next, or how do I solve this problem, or how do I tackle that opportunity, just stop trying so hard. Get away from the desk and the computer and the iPhone and everything, and just go. Take your body and your mind somewhere else. Go for a walk. Go to the gym. Have a shower. Whatever. And it'll happen. The universe will deliver. You just gotta put yourself in the right place to let that happen.
So what you're really saying is if you're willing to let it happen and go do something to make that possible, the answer's there.
Yeah, yeah. Don't force it, and the more you can just put your body and mind at ease, I think the easier it is for that inspiration or the answer or whatever it is to come out and help you along your journey.
Well, that is good advice. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. The time went by and we hardly even noticed it happened. It was just like having a cup of coffee together. I
Yeah.
suspected this would be very worthwhile for both of us. I'd like to encourage our audience to please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Give us comments. Bring us guests. The whole point of this show is to take your life experience, share it with someone else so that we can improve the quality of their lives. And we all together can be part of this beautiful world that's filled with love and opportunity and great people to be around and help other people have a little higher quality of life. Any closing words you'd like to leave with the audience, Ken?
Well, it's December 14th here, so I'll wish everyone a happy holiday and a very happy new year.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone has a great end to this one and a fantastic 24.
Well, thank you
Thanks for
so
having
much
me.
for your
I really
time.
enjoyed this, David. It was great to see you again. Thank you.
Me too. I'm looking forward to getting to know you even better over time. Thank you.
You bet. We'll make it happen.